Thank you. Just want to make an assignment to Councilmember Yorkville. We have the newsletter article for April.
Cool. What's the date?
Don't want to forget
What's the
that.
date?
25th. Just want to make an assignment to Councilmember Yorkville.
Oh, you sound good, John.
We're on the 10-second. That means if we say anything, she can be.
Be on YouTube.
Technical difficulty. When you want to produce the meeting for your residents, so you put it on YouTube, and this is
the first.
this is one of the ramifications of that. One of the technical glitches. The meeting for your residents, so you put it on YouTube, and it shows my mic. One of the ramifications of that. One of the technical glitches. No. Okay. Don, would you come up here and just state your name?
Yep. Don Olson, Ephraim City. Well, just first of all, I'd like to commend the council for starting with prayer. A lot of cities don't have that anymore, and I'm grateful that I live in a small town where that still means something. And trying to touch my heart. Anyway, I'm here to kind of help resolve a problem, I guess, that I solved or that I created. I don't know if all the council is familiar with the well water that was overflowing, that you, when you drilled Rex Nilsson's well, all that overflow was just subbing out the corner and into the property that I lease from Kerry Googler, and it was killing the grass and stuff. And so Lloyd and Mayor Scott come down, and they decided first of all was going to maybe do a ditch along the inside of Kerry's property, which he gave us permission to do. But then they figured out that there wasn't enough flow to put it in the ditch, and so they decided to pipe it. And they put a nice junction box there, and they did a fantastic job. And I told Jeff, thanks for all the work that the city did and what he did. But now I think everybody feels that they're entitled to that free water, and I can't even get it for 6 hours because somebody keeps going and changing the junction box out. I've closed mine off, and if there's when I go back the next morning and open it up, it's closed off that night. So anyway, I just here requesting the council figure out a way that we can all be fair and utilize that water and just take turns. Whether you put stipulations that you have to be a taxpayer and just probably a taxpayer. Maybe you don't have to be a resident, but a taxpayer be from city to be able to use that water. And then split it up into like maybe fourths, and then sell those fourth of the shares. And so you have the whole stream for so long, and the other guy has it full. I'm willing to help out any way I can, but it's starting to get spring, and that water's it's going to turn into a fight on who's going to use that water. And so I just think it's something we need to try to get addressed as soon as we can, whether we get Jeff involved and a council member, just try to figure out a way to make it feasible to use for everybody to take turns.
A question for you. How many people that the water goes downstream to could it possibly affect to have a little water?
That are taxpayers of Ephraim?
Uh-huh.
I would know. You've got a city employee that works on the public works department that has land down there. Craig Olberg's at the very bottom of it. Carl Nilsson has a little piece. There's a kid that bought that one great big piece, but he lives down there, so he's not paying any taxes or has any connection with Ephraim City. And then Steve Frischnick, I don't know if Steve Frischnick sold his property or not. So there's only like maybe 5 or 6 along there. And some of them might not be willing to pay any money for it. They might not want to pay to use the water. So I don't know. We'd have to go to the landowners. That's where I guess Brian, he could probably pull up the map and find out all the property owners there. Right now, the majority of the water is coming into the flood channel. And then instead of going straight down the flood channel, it's going clear back north, probably another half mile that somebody's using. And so it's just a constant battle. And I just want to be fair. I just want everybody else to be fair too and be able to use that water. And as Ephraim City grows and the more you pump, there won't be any water come out of that, as we grow, and that's used full time. And it depends on the aquifer, a dry year, there might not be any overflow. So anyway, but nevertheless, it needs to be addressed so there's not somebody gets shot.
Katie, would you put this on our study agenda for next time? And would you come back next time? Because
in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
we're going to put it on the study agenda so that we can talk about it and talk about a solution. We'll have Jeff here. Jeff needs to be here for that. And we'll try to get this solved.
Well, 2 weeks puts you in the middle of March, and the time to get something done is going to be the 1st of April. And I hope that we could get a committee formed that we could
We
come back with a proposal in 2 weeks.
We may be able to solve it in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Let's see if we can do that.
Okay.
I mean, the water isn't turned in till the 15th of April. And so.
That's Ephraim City, it's running now though.
Right, I understand. Yeah. I understand.
And so I'm not gonna be able to use it for 2 weeks.
So people.
Unless I go down there and sleep all night or drive my tractor over the.
And take your dogs.
So like you've turned the water onto your property.
If I go down there in the morning and turn them into my property, the next morning or even that night, it's shut off and somebody else is
This
opening it up.
happened in February?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's some really nice days there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another stipulation that you say like December 1st to February 1st or 25th of February, it goes straight to the flood channel. Because the ground's frozen, it don't do much good anyway, unless somebody's using it to water livestock.
We've had this problem in other
Yeah.
places, so I can talk to you about it.
So anyway, I just like to use a lot of my pasture at least once, twice.
There's not gonna be a lot of water this year.
Well, no, but the only water that pasture or that place at least gets is, well, it does. When the flood channel is high and going, it seeps up and gets water underground that way. But since you drilled the well, I mean, that's been a pretty good source of water, and I appreciated using the water, but it was just starting to drown me out.
What'll happen is in the next 2 weeks, before that study, it gets put on the study agenda. Lloyd and I, Brian and Jeff and you,
Just call
get
me.
together.
Just call me anytime. I'm
we'll call-
available at any time.
Is that all right, Lloyd? Fine.
I'm available at any time, and we can just put some proposals together and then.
Yeah.
you
Where
guys-
Lloyd and I have been involved in this for the last year.
Yeah.
We probably are a little more aware of what's happening, so. Okay.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
You bet.
Moving on to presentations. 1A, Snow College Report, Events of Technical Education and Workforce Development Team. Jay, are you doing this?
Well, we're gonna tag it.
Okay.
Heidi's getting the presentation up, so just want to refer you to the, excuse me, folder we passed out. It's got a lot of information in there. The new book, the spiral bound book, is really targeting our technical education programs once you get past the first 3 pages. So the third page in is a list of all the technical programs and certificates we offer. A few of those on the Richfield campus, but it qualifies in the rubrics, or the rubrics where those locations are. So it really is just what we learn. And thank you as a community partner and a city for what you do to support Snow College and let you know what's happening on your sister city, Richfield, who pretty much has the technical education side of the college. So it really is what we look at for technical education and workforce development, happy with those skills for students that just want a skill of some kind. So I'm not going to refer to all that material in the packet for you in that folder. You can just look at that as you have time, and feel free to ask questions as we go through. We just have a few slides, so. We're not going to do it from remote. All right, well.
Technical
It
education.
just comes right, yeah. So this sheet is in this folder for you, but it highlights the successes we've had on both campuses combined as a college with numbers of rural students that are receiving concurrent enrollment. You need to know that Snow College is furnished with concurrent enrollment for rural communities throughout Utah. So there's 40 of those different schools or communities outside of most of the urban area, but mostly rural, that are served by Snow College concurrent enrollment. Other percentages in those little round circles for you just to look at, get a feel for what the campus looks like. And then 27%, a new data point that President McKipp likes to highlight, that indicates that 20% of the students that come to Snow College and complete, when they transfer to a transfer institution on our regional colleges, they graduate at a 27% higher rate than those students that start their academic path at that regional university, indicating that the personalized experience the students get here at Snow College really gives them the skills, the confidence, and the successes they can build on as they move into that senior year for their academic goals and path. So, okay, then we get to Richfield campus, and Heidi, you can talk about this one.
So if you've been to Richfield lately, we've just got a lot of exciting initiatives in place. One that you see here, we've grown with 4 athletic teams. So if you haven't heard, we have 2 wrestling teams, men and women, and also cross country. Last year, one of our ladies took national titles, so they kicked off with a really good start. This week, they just left today for their nationals. So we have 20 young ladies that are wrestling this weekend for nationals, and we have 9 men, which for 9 to qualify, it is a big deal. So our teams are doing well, they're progressing. Right now, our cross-country season's over, but we've gone into track, so they're still active and running all over town. That team will probably double by next year. And so it's been super exciting. As part of that, some of the things that have held back the Richfield campus for everybody has been our lack of housing. And we've been working really hard on this, and with some of the changes that happened with COVID, we've just struggled with that. But we were able to take 2 buildings right there next to campus, which were part of the Willow Creek development, and get 120 beds out of that. So a lot of our athletes are out of town students are able to have that. We're super excited for that, but it's still a top priority for us to look towards building on campus housing at our campus. Something really exciting, a picture that you'll see there. It's hard to see when it's so small, but we're looking at a new face to the southern front of the Washburn building, which has been that main education building at our Richfield campus. And so looking to elevate and have that be a main entrance into campus and build hopefully that housing across the street from that, if you're familiar down by those baseball fields. So this is something exciting in the works. We've already been through most of our preliminary steps for getting that approved. We already have the money in place for that. Just these last legislative final day to get through, and we'll be able to move forward with that hopefully in July. So that's super exciting for Richfield campus.
Thanks. So that, yeah, that building is really kind of exciting thing for us to look forward to. Again,
It looks nice.
You know,
Will you be able to get that front view from the freeway or the?
you'll be able to see the freeway to the west of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of our purpose, that
Yeah.
impression, to show that it's Richfield campus. If you're there right now, you can't even tell you're at Snow College. Other than the Severe Valley Center, that new sign we've added, when you come into that south end, it's pretty busy.
It's just another building. In technical education specifically, we have 21 programs. We've seen a 14.8% increase just in student numbers on our Richfield. There's really some growth that's happening there and 39% increased enrollment in our technical education. So getting out to reach those students that really are looking for the skills that will get them into a career path. And that 39% increase also includes some industry upgrades and trainings in partnership with industry for their current employees that are looking for further skills. So that's kind of a fun thing. We've got presence in Juab County with the Nephi Learning Center, a building that's in partnership with the Central Valley Medical Center. And then a Delta training site, a modular unit that the Village School Districts allowed us to put in at their CTE center to house some programs. So we have presence in these outreach areas. And then as we go on to other opportunities that really blossomed out in the Nephi area that we are planning to expand, but in Nephi, we started this last fall in addition to EMT and the nurse assistant, medical assisting, electrical apprenticeship. There in Nephi, out of the Nephi Learning Center this past fall, along with Delta, an electrical apprenticeship. So people that are on that apprenticeship path come in after their work day and attend class, and they're prepared then by the time they get all their hours accumulated in 4 years of education to test for their journeymans and get that electrical certification. Also, CDL was started in our Delta site in partnership really because of industry demand, and the Millard County Economic Development team agreed to scholarship any of their Millard County residents who would go into any of the programs. So a full scholarship of tuition and fees, which really put the opportunity out there for us in a very real way to look at CDL. So we just looked at numbers this morning. We by Friday of this week, we will have completed almost 12 students through that CDL program. And you can't do a whole classroom because they have to spend so much time driving.
Was that a full class then?
We take about 4 or 5 at a time, and then they have to schedule time to go in and do the driving. So, but it rotates too. So we anticipate if we can do 8 to 9 a semester in 2 different blocks, 4 or 5 per block, that's going to work about right.
There's a great need for that.
Yeah. So we're hoping to expand that out even here to Ephraim on the Richfield campus. Electrical apprenticeship will be a pretty easy lift to expand here to Ephraim and even to Richfield because we have space on our west campus and the facilities there to do that. So we're anticipating rolling that out with electrical apprenticeship year 1 starting this fall here in Ephraim, and we'll start marketing that here towards the end of the school year. So fun things. And then apprenticeships, really think about apprenticeships from what we have learned with kind of the Swedish model where high school students actually get involved in doing an apprenticeship. So we're rolling this out with our Gunnison and Manti high schools in partnership with our composite industries in Gunnison. So a junior this year that has interest will apply for an apprenticeship position. Parents will go through an orientation. They will tour the ACT aerospace, and they will submit an application, be selected, and they will start in their senior year. And on an AB day, whatever day they don't have classes, they will go to work full time and they'll get their high school. Start their arm on that other day. And by the time they finish their senior year, they will have earned a certificate in composites, and they'll be paid throughout the time. About $15 an hour is where they'll start as a high school student. When they complete their certificate, it'll go bump up from there. If they decide to go further and get their Associate of Science, it's another jump up, and our industry partners have agreed to that tiered incentive on the salary side to do this apprenticeship. So we're excited about that, particularly here for our South Cypress School District, our Manti high school students to be involved in that. And we're just starting out with the ACT aerospace, but we've talked to Proteor, the Christensen Arms, Fierce Firearms out of Salina. So that whole group is anxious to get involved, but we're just starting with one this coming fall to work out the kinks and make sure it's gonna work for us.
Can you look at that aerospace?
Yeah.
One. That's only one.
It's okay.
Well,
It's
but we'll take
okay.
it. We'll take it.
No, this is a conversation that Katie and I had this morning about a proposal.
Oh.
Anyway.
Okay. And just so you know, the connection we have with high school students, last year we recognized 133 high school pathway completers in a career technical education pathway from their high school education with a $500 scholarship into a technical education program. 527 students from our local high schools, 13 really in our 6-county area, participated in some kind of a technical education day on campus, got their hands-on welding equipment, a little bit of oil and grease in the auto, but they went in and did things and learned what those kinds of careers would be in those certificate
So
programs.
that was Ridgefield campus, right?
Ridgefield campus. Now, here on Ephraim campus, construction management, construction technology is here. So same thing with construction technology down here on West Campus. So, and then many of our courses in our tech ed programs are COMSI based. We've moved over our full advanced manufacturing, our medical assisting to COMSI based, which means that students do not have to come sit in a class Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a certain number of hours to get the credit. They learn things online and they schedule time to come into the lab to pass off the skills and the assessment. It's based on competency, not seat time. And a year ago, our valedictorian for the whole campus came off of Ridgefield. He completed 3 certificates because it was COMSI based. He could go through it at his own pace and he was dedicated. He completed 3 certificates, welding, machining, composites, graduated the AS in pre-engineering and headed to SUU this school year. So we've had students that have just had that kind of drive where this COMSI based education has allowed them to just be really efficient with their time. It also gives preference to students that may come in from an industry background. They don't have to sit through and do and listen to what they've already learned coming from previous experience. So that's an exciting component to our technical education.
Question, what's the general feel as you go to the different schools within the 6-county areas? I think that's what was on the map. What kind of feedback did you get as you sit with the students on a one-on-one basis in their high schools and have a chance to talk to them? Tell me what you're seeing.
Yeah, go ahead.
What we're noticing and what our feedback is when we meet with our superintendents from the school districts of the area, Superintendent Douglas from Sevier had shared, we're missing 70% of their students, that they don't feel they're college bound. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have plans after their senior year. That's a disturbing number to all of us. But they're not to that step to even consider that or think that's their future. So that's where we've been working very hard these last 3 years to come up with programming like these events to specifically pick out those types of students to help them understand. I think we still struggle in our 6-county area, helping our students even know what the potential is for these tech ed programs in the industry. And that's why a lot of these things you'll see us advertise, it will be with industry partners. And Jay will talk about this more as we get into some of the programming. It's all about the industry partners. So the parents, the child can see this is a future, this is a career that can be in the future in our 6-county area.
Yeah, for two semesters, maybe 30 credits. To come out with your diesel technology and have job opportunities starting out in 50,000-60,000 a year. And that's for 2 semesters, 30 credits. About, I don't remember the numbers are in that table, about $2,400 cost in tuition.
Wow.
So.
And you're giving a $500 scholarship.
But we're doing a $500 scholarship. This year, it's going to be $1,000. And so the students are actually being
So for
identified.
$1,200, a student can get a full-time job paying $60,000.
Which again, many of our students qualify for financial aid on top of that.
Yeah.
It's
And network cybersecurity right there.
Yeah.
You know, and I just picked one out, but that's the salary range in our 6-county area for network cybersecurity. And that's the 30 credit program, about $2,400. And so you'll see that in all of our program sheets in here. And you'll notice that the industry partner logos that are part of each of those pages. And that just represents some of them. We couldn't put them all on there just because of space. So, okay. All right, and then the snowmobile. This is our Snap-on tool truck that has been stripped and cleaned up and put a wrap on, and it's making visits to high schools to promote STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, entrepreneurship in rural areas, and all of our technical programs. A lot of recruiting, a lot of introduction, even down in the elementary schools about what these careers are. They have hands-on experiences, so those students aren't just coming to and looking, they're doing something. And in some of our smaller towns and communities with competency-based education, the plan is to put a piece of equipment on this and it can go into Paiute County or over into Wayne County or into Eureka and Tintic. And those students that are doing the competency-based will have a chance to come in when it's scheduled to be there to do their skill pass off on the piece of equipment they're doing, in automation technology and pneumatics or hydraulics. So they don't always have to just drive to Richfield or here to Ephraim to do those skill assessments. It's coming to them. And our idea with all of this is to meet people where they're at in their life, because not everybody can work a schedule around a typical educational day of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday for a certain number of hours. And industry partnerships, I can skip right to the next one. And it's slow. Okay, this is the next initiative that's really, really exciting for us is Tech Connect. Tech Connect is an opportunity for any student that has received technical credits anytime in their life to transfer those to Snow College, and they will be converted into academic credits towards the academic degree. So you get a 30 credit certificate in welding, turn all those credits into your elective credits, complete your general education, and just a few more classes that you may need as a prerequisite if you're going into engineering, and you don't have to wait and go through and repeat all those elective classes. Best example we have is a young lady out of Dixie Tech, graduated last spring, trying to transfer all of her technical credits in digital design down to Utah Tech. They said, well, we'll only take these few classes, but you won't take any of the others. She transferred to Snow College, brought 9 credits in current enrollment with her, got enrolled through the summer, stayed through the fall, graduated in December, and theoretically could go back in January, and did go back to Utah Tech and say, I'm a junior, not a freshman, because of Tech Connect. Because she had those technical credits that are academic credits. So that's what Tech Connect is. So anybody in your communities that have interest in pursuing something but don't have those academic credits, if it's a technical skill, and we can even give credits for prior learning assessments. Maybe come out of the military with some training and experience. So we just see Snow College as being right in the middle between the technical colleges on the left and the academic institutions on the right to be a pathway to help people, whatever their academic goals are in education, whether it's technical education into academic or just get a skill and go to work. Okay, continuing education, another initiative we have going. Kenley Steck runs this program, and lots of customized training throughout our communities for industry-specific training, community interests that we can provide through a continuing education kind of a program. And all this information, again, is in your packet, so you'll have reference to it with QR codes to scan and then go to those pages or a phone number to make a call. With that, thank you. And any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
I think this is wonderful.
Are other schools on this same path, or are you at the point of the spear?
On Tech Connect, we're kind of pointing the spear. And it works good.
Are you ahead of the game on getting to these students and helping them?
We're in the pack.
Okay.
We hope we can be in front of it. But again, the challenge is for a high school student to understand really what the opportunities are. And to change the conversation that comes from counselors and advisors about what technical education is, that college education isn't always an academic set of classes and a path, but it can be skills that can get you a good paying job, even a local good paying job, with just as little as a year of school, or maybe even a semester in some of the programs.
I know that I've had conversations with IH representatives, and they're very interested in partnering with SNO on the nursing program and expansion.
So nursing, and we are starting respiratory
That's what I was
therapy.
gonna say, I think you're doing that.
Yeah.
I wish you could do the X-ray tech too.
Yep.
Which is an applied degree.
Margie will volunteer again.
There you go.
I like our new advocate.
Well, an IHC,
As a subject for even X-ray.
as we've been in
See how bad it
conversations with
looks.
IHC like you have, they've agreed that when they decide to get to the hospital, there'll be a teaching component for the equipment. So you do surge tech, and those kinds of things, which is very expensive to get into because of the equipment, but they will provide that.
Yeah, I think that is their vision. I've confirmed that with them several times now.
Good.
And I know that President McKiff has had conversations with them.
Yeah. I think we'll
And,
probably-
Carson also have, but now we have a new Carson.
Tim Tingy is his name.
Tim Ting.
Tim Tingy.
Got a ring to it.
First week in April. Well, thank you. Thanks. for
Thank you
coming
so
in.
much.
Just give an update of where things are.
All right, thank you so much, Snow College. And appreciate Jay and Heidi coming, presenting to us. Item B, 1B, finance presentation, John. We just found $2 million. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yes. Nice, right? So this is just finance office, correct? Who we are and what we do. I know we know a lot of people in the office, but maybe a little bit more about what we do. So I've got me, a finance director, who manages the finance office. We've got 3 full-time employees. And we've got a third-party consultant that we use, and we also actually have a Snow College intern with us. Snow College intern this semester, so that's been good. So we got Aubrey, she's our treasurer. She manages PTIF transfers, deposit investment report semi-annually. She reviews and signs PP and payroll checks. Not payroll checks, but payroll transmittal checks. She'll work on P card approvals. So that's city credit cards that employees have. Collections, so any utility collections that go out, she's working on those. She assists with utilities, monthly closeout of utilities, daily procedures. And then we're gonna give her purchasing as well. So that's kind of the highlight of what she does. And that Esmeralda, she's a utility clerk, so she does all things utilities. If you have questions about utilities or you make a payment, Esmeralda is gonna be the one to help you with that. She does all the billing, just everything with utilities, so. She's also the utility board secretary, so she's helping with that. And a lot of times she helps with Spanish, so utility questions with a lot of the residents, or even help with police, or just other general questions that come in with any of the Hispanic community, she can help them, so we're grateful that she is able to do that. And then we have Randy, she's an accounting specialist, she does accounts payable, payroll, a lot of the online accounts that the city has, Amazon, UPS, or city fuel cards. She manages a lot of that stuff. She does unclaimed property. So if there's an AP check that has not been cashed and is outstanding, she's trying to find those people and reissue those checks, we get those cleared and not have to send those to the state. It's kind of a pain, but it's better to take care of it now than have to send that to the state. So part of the accounts payable with her that I just wanted to mention briefly is warrant register and go through that process a little bit. So you know a little bit more of what we've done. So in the past, as you know, we've just done checks every time we have council. We've changed that to doing our AP checks weekly, which has actually been very nice. Not have to worry about late fees on any deadlines or anything, or sending out special checks. It's been good, just do that weekly. But so throughout the week, she'll enter invoices. On Friday, she'll close that out, print the checks, print off the warrant register, get that emailed to all of you so that you can review it over the weekend. And then we wait until Monday. If there's no questions, we'll get those checks sent out in the mail. If you do have any questions about anything in there, please don't hesitate to call or stop in. Or anything, we've got all the invoices, and if there are any questions, we don't want you guys feeling uncomfortable with anything that we're sending out, or that you understand what we're doing. So And then if we're good with that, checks, she'll take the check and compare it to the invoice one last time, just to make sure everything's good. The amount and address and everything, and then we'll mail those out, so. I don't know if you have any questions about warrant register, I know it's been a couple months that we've been doing it this way, just. make sure everyone's good with that.
Any questions, council members?
I think it's been working, okay. Yeah.
We have council members who have called and asked questions.
It's worked really well.
Good.
Okay, and then we have Dave Sanderson, he's our third-party CPA. We have him to help with separation of duties in any areas that we need it. He does a monthly close and a monthly review of financial statements. He is also helps with the annual financial statement preparation. And then just consulting him with any questions that I have. So if there's any questions that we have as a city that maybe I don't understand, we can get him on the line. I've done it several times. I talk to him quite frequently, so. If we ever need him for anything, we can talk to him. And then our intern with Snow College, her name's Morgan. We're having her help with public surplus type stuff. A lot of it is cleaning out this white shed back here. We got several years of accumulation of junk back in there. Can almost hardly walk around. But she's gone through that. We've thrown out a bunch of garbage. We're getting some stuff ready to do a public sale. There's office furniture and bikes and tools and all kinds of random stuff that we're looking to clear out. And then we'll start helping with public works and power in their areas as well. So she's been doing a really good job with that. Having her help with some asset management, doing some reconciliation on vehicles and one of the other things, just to make sure that we're getting everything taken care of. And then for me, I'm doing the daily and monthly bank reconciliation with bank activity. So every morning I'm checking bank activity for the prior day, just to check and make sure that everything's looking good. No weird checks or weird transactions or anything. I'm trying to go through there. I manage the city. We use Cassell as our enterprise resource software program. I manage and maintain that. And budget, there's several reports that I work on, W-2s, 1099s, the year end, and annual financial audit, payroll, accounts receivable, as well as, all this, other multiple things that we do. So that's who we are and that's what we do. It's pretty quick. If you have any questions for me on what we do or anything, I'd be happy to answer those now or anytime.
John, when you were coming up here, I was joking with you a little bit. You found $2 million.
Yeah.
Your answer should have been no, but $1.5 million.
Yeah.
Because Brian just got
That's true.
a grant for $1.5 million last week.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
Please, Jeff.
I just was talking to Candace before the meeting, but on the warrant register,
Mhm.
when it comes to me, it comes on my phone or my tablet. I don't have it on the computer. But it's facing the other way, so I gotta, every time I turn it, it turns. I was wondering if there was a way you could make it so it goes straight. There's no way to, I don't know if anybody else has had that trouble, but
You don't get the little thing that lets you to
no,
curve it on your tablet?
no, I've tried to look for it, but maybe I can bring it in, maybe you can.
Yeah,
find it.
we could look at it. So the warrant register, we have changed the format of that probably 2 years ago. It was portrait, so like this.
Yeah,
But
but I mean, it's on my tablet and my phone, and every time you turn, it's.
so it's wide like this. And so you
Yeah,
can
so you
see
gotta
it.
kind of read it on the angle.
And when he turns his phone, it goes as well.
It goes,
There might be something on your device that we can fix too.
We look at your device.
all right,
As far as changing the format, if I print it this way, then it's gonna be skinny this way. And
well, I'll just bring it in and see if it's.
we can look at block your screen rotation or something, but
I've looked for that and I can't find it, but that doesn't mean it's not there, so.
okay.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3, consent items. A and B, looking for a motion to approve our consent items.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent items, which are the City count, well, let's see.
That's all you
The
have to
city
say.
council, just the
That's all you have
consent,
to say.
consent items.
Okay.
I'm so used
I
to seeing
second.
the minutes and the warrant register.
Motion made by Councilmember Anderson, second by Councilmember Norfeld, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3, study agenda governing documents for the Public Infrastructure District or PID. And Mike Ballard is here to do that presentation.
Appreciate the privilege to be here. We've had a public hearing on this before. We addressed a lot of good questions. We had the way here as well as your representative, Jacob, from Zion's Public Finance. We have on the phone today our attorneys who have submitted the documentation. Your attorneys have reviewed it. They're here to address any questions you or your council may have. But we're proposing to do this public infrastructure district to help with building major arteries through our community. And if you have any questions?
Council members, do you have any questions? I have a few questions. And I think I think Brian and Katie have mentioned this to you, that we would like to see, and I know that isn't in these documents, but we want to see the build out, the complete build out of 750 South as a priority in the final documents that you'll approve, hopefully, maybe next time.
Yeah.
You know, I think what we had discussed is that's gonna have to be a development agreement that we do
Right,
separately.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. I just wanted to bring it up. That's something that's important to us.
We can show you kind of our priority list real fast. And
No, it, okay.
But in general terms, Ephraim being a small community, we can't do everything we hope for when we showed you a map last time of all the different roads that we can improve.
Right.
And Ephraim crossing, so that diagonal road that goes east-west through our development, when it crosses Highway 89, it's 750. But it kind of goes up and becomes 600. Right? And
Yeah.
so we have in our plan, that's our number one priority, is to do that not to do that just past 400 West. You know, just to complete that all the way to 800 West would use kind of the entirety of the money that we can
Right,
get.
I think we're talking about to 400 West.
Yeah.
I think that was the view that we had.
So in our discussions with Intermountain Health in the last week, as well as with your council, as you're aware, UDOT, you've received, we've received funding, you've received funding to do basically half of the road from Highway 89 to 400 West. Our plan is to do a significant portion of that, part of the way, but not to do it all the way because we have other priorities like 400 West going from 400 South to Ephraim Crossing Parkway and then also to do a few other roads. So our plan was, it'll fully functioning road east-west past 400 West. With a lane each way and a center turn lane, so 3 lanes. At 400 West is our plan.
Yeah.
And 5 lanes, to do 5 lanes from the highway past the retail portion and the first hotel that we have under contract to sell land to a hotel developer. So to do it 5 lanes past there and then it narrows to 3. And goes into the UDOT infrastructure until we pass 400
We just want that to be a priority.
Yeah, it's gonna be paved all the way past 400 West is our plan right now.
Thank you.
And then we also plan to do 400 West, 200 West, 100 West, part of 700 South. in our plan as well.
On item 5, item 5.9. It says limited tax debt issuance limitation. The district shall not issue limited tax debt in excess of an aggregate amount of $25 million. And then it has in parentheses 15 million. I think that's probably a typo. It should be 15 million throughout. Is that your
Supposed to
understanding?
be 25 million throughout.
15.
Based on the potential,
Oh, I have somebody who wants to
Yeah.
speak to that, Mr. Daly.
Yep, this is Adam Daly with Gilmore Bell. We're representing the potential district here through the creation process. And based on our discussion with the city, that limit should read $15 million. That's correct. We'll update the wording so that it matches the number there.
Okay, so you'll also need to update it on B, 11B, because in both of those, both in the parentheses and in the written out, it's 25 million. And so it should be 15 million on both items.
Yeah, there's a separate reference to the $25 million, which refers to the engineer's estimated cost of improvements. That's separate from our debt limitation. I don't know if is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, so the preliminary engineering survey, that's an estimate from an engineer that the total costs of improvements to be financed and acquired within the district is approximately $25 million. That would not allow the district to issue limited tax debt in an amount of $25 million. So that figure is correct. But in the prior section under limited tax debt, that should read 15 million. So we'll update that on our end.
Okay, item number 8, financial plan, 8C, D, under minimum debt levy, D, it says that in addition, unless otherwise agreed to in writing by the city, the authority of a district to impose the maximum debt mill levy shall expire if such district does not issue debt within 8 years. We would like to see that at 3 years. We don't want the project on the books for 8 years is a long time. And so we would like to see it as 3 years. Under E,
Adam, do you have any comment related to that?
This is Aaron Wade, also with Gilmore Bell. I can jump in on that. I think we want to certainly be responsive to the feedback that we're getting here. I just wonder if 3 years is maybe a bit of a short term. I think the one piece I'd want to remind is that there is a request for 2 districts here, and that request is to, if needed, bifurcate the bonds if we found that it was prudent to issue a portion this year and another portion once, the project is a little further along. And so, I can understand the concern of the city, but I would just ask that maybe a little bit more, that more than 3 years be permitted, just to give some flexibility, on the project. Just because sometimes you see there's a downturn or something changes, and that can easily tack a year onto a project. The other piece that remains a bit to be seen is this will be, I think, to date, one of the more rural projects. And so I think, it remains to be seen, if investors want to see it a little further along, or some of those kinds of things before they would buy the bond. So that's why I would ask for a, maybe doesn't have to be 8 years, but, a longer period of time than 3 years, just to give some more flexibility to the districts to issue the debt in the timeframe that, makes sense, both from a risk perspective for their potential investors, as well as makes sense from the project's perspective, and lines up with the construction timeline.
we don't want 8 years. That's just not acceptable. Right. But we would consider one more, not more than 2 more years after that.
So one of the things as we've talked to the underwriter, the group, the organization that sells the bonds, because this is one of the more rural ones, they've asked us to chop it into two, right? So our expectation is we're gonna do one, do the roads to take care of the infrastructure needed in the shortest amount of time. You know, anything that can start in the next 2 or 3 years. But when we received our market study, it basically said it'll take till by the time we have finished deploying all the real estate and different developers have purchased different lots, the town can only absorb a certain amount, and we don't want to build too fast. And so they suggested we potentially do one offering, and our goal is to try to get an offering done and sold between now and June, right? So we're kind of in a hurry for this. And then do those initial roads and then go back as development occurs, you know, on near 800 West and, you know, all the way up 400 South down to Kiesel Lane, do another potential infrastructure bond there for 600 West and 800 West and those types of things. So then that second one might occur in the 4th or 5th year based on the absorption of what occurs. So the idea is we're not necessarily gonna, again, our motivation for spending the time and the money now is to try and get the first set of bonds sold between now and June, right? That's our target plan. But they've told us, right, to do the infrastructure the way that many other communities do it, when we did our engineer's opinion of cost, it was over $15 million to do the major arterials. But the underwriter says, there's no way you're selling that. You know, it's probably closer to $4.5 to $6 million is all we can do. So the idea is to do it in phases, and that's why we wanted the extra few years. So our commitment is to try and sell bonds in the first, you know, easily within the first 3 years. But we'd appreciate extra length to do that secondary bond. Did I explain that properly, Aaron?
Yeah, that aligns with my understanding and kind of market conditions. Yep.
Yeah, and this is Nate Canova with Dorsey. I was engaged to represent the city in reviewing this. I think 5 years is reasonable, Mayor. We could go to 5. They would still have 3 years after the 5 year, right? After you issue bonds, you still have 3 years to spend the money. So that's just to issue the debt. So that would get them their 8-year timeline if we give them 5 years to issue and then 3 years on top of that to spend.
8 years would be, we feel good about 5 years, but anything beyond that, we don't feel good about.
Understand.
Yeah.
Is that all right with you?
I think so.
On item E, number A.
Under which?
It's
Roman
page
numeral.
21 on yours. It's
Okay, yeah.
Roman numeral, oh, I think we're still in 8.
Yeah, 8.
The district may impose a mill levy on taxable property within its boundaries up to a maximum mill levy as a primary source of revenue for repayment of debt services. The districts may also rely upon various other revenue sources authorized by law. At the district's discretion, these may include the levy of ad valorem property taxes, the use of property tax differential, the power to assess assessments, and the power to impose fees, penalties, and charges, including as provided in section 17D-4-304 Utah Code, as amended from time to time, except as described in section 8.ca. The debt service mill levy in the district shall not exceed the maximum debt levy, mill levy, or the maximum debt mill levy imposition term, except for repayment of general obligation debt. I would want to have something included in that if you're going to raise taxes in that district, that has to be approved by the Ephraim City Council. If it's not approved by an elected body, then we get back to taxation without representation. And so that's just something I don't think we can live with, that unilaterally a district, this PID district could raise taxes for residents, businesses, um, unilaterally from what the city council can do. Does that make sense?
It does. Aaron?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that. So, I certainly appreciate the concern there as well. I know that property taxes is a, sensitive area. The one piece that I would say, on that front is that the statute does allow the property owners, together with any registered voters. My understanding is right now there's not any registered voters. It's fields and vacant land. But that the property owners can perform that election that allows under the state constitution the issuance of the tax bonds. And I recognize the future resident isn't at the table there, but because there's robust disclosure, both recorded against the property as well as required to be included in sellers disclosures and the standard Utah real estate purchase, or seller's disclosure includes information about a limited tax bond from a public infrastructure district. I would say that those folks are kind of voting with their feet in the sense of they're aware of the tax and they can make a decision if the tax makes sense for them or if they'd rather live in an area without the tax. So they have some flexibility. The folks paying the taxes today are the ones that make that decision. The rest vote with their feet. But I think we do have the language in there that they would only be able to levy the tax if the tax differential was not available for the bonds, kind of as a secondary source. I think there's been some discussions on that in the past. So that's the way we have it set up. We do have it currently set up that it would be a board finding, a PID board finding to trigger that. Mike, I'd be interested in your thoughts on the city being the trigger for that. I think our thought was to, in some ways insulate the city from looking like they're blessing this bond or blessing the tax. But, Mike, open to your thoughts as well as the thoughts of the mayor and council.
Again, this is the first time we've ever done one of these. We're not that familiar, so we're relying on our attorneys. So once we sold the property, we can't, after the fact, add a tax. Is that correct?
If you were to do that, you would have to take actions and put some disclosures in place to notify folks that there would be the tax in the future. But that's kind of some new legislation that's just been passed this session to preserve that ability. But generally speaking, you're not going to get the consent once folks have moved in if you're not preserving it up front. Yeah.
The other thing, I think the reason we had this in was primarily because UIPA is in the Utah Inland Port Authority is in litigation. And there was some question whether we could do that. So this was basically a backup to the tax increment financing. Is that correct?
That was the purpose here, was just to give a path forward while there was some uncertainty there.
Jeff, was there anything you wanted?
No,
I understand this.
I think that's the exact point is that there's a release valve. If somebody's going to buy a bond, want to be comfortable that they're going to get paid. And if there's litigation with UIPA and that tax availability isn't there, then why are you going to buy the bond, right? So our underwriters are telling us that kind of a release valve or a box of kind of a backup kind of plan, if that's not available, this is how it would happen. It's kind of necessary to be there.
And then again, it's not our plan to do this, but the underwriter and the attorneys have strongly said this is the language that'll be there. But again, because of the disclosures, right? If we end up having to do that, then that automatically makes Steve's land more valuable because he doesn't have it and we do. And therefore ours will be more expensive for that type of thing.
And except since you mentioned my name, you'd be able to sell your properties for less because you got the improvements run to them without having to incorporate those into the cost of your additional subdivisions that tie to it. And every pit I know of, every one of them I know of does charge at least $1.5 million to the homeowners and those that live in them, because especially in a rural community, you're not going to be able to get it funded quick enough without that money from those people that live there and increased property taxes. It will be something you'll have to do. I don't think it's just gonna be a maybe. That's why these bond investors want that in there, because they know they'll need that to pay it off. It's my opinion from everything I've read. I read a lot about it. I don't think it's gonna be an if, it's gonna be a when.
I think the bottom line here is that somehow there needs to be a mechanism that the board comes before the city council before an increase is done. That may not be fun.
Right.
For the board, but
Or the city council.
yeah, or the city council. But again, I get back to a very fundamental principle, which is taxation without representation. And you can have people, and I envision people moving into homes and cursorily looking at that in the purchase contract and not thinking much about it. But then the feedback to us is going to be absolutely enormous when they begin to have their taxes raised without an approval of the city council, even though it was in their purchase agreement. They're still, people are just not going to think that way. They're going to purchase it without a consideration of that. I mean, people are not coming to the closing with a lawyer. And I'm very concerned about something being in the contract that we have no sort of oversight with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, if Mike, I'm assuming that sounds reasonable to you. I mean, we can, make that adjustment to change it from a board finding to an approval by the city council. And that being the trigger. I think we would like to keep at least kind of the framework of the tax throughout the document so that it wouldn't be a full-blown, amendment at that point, but it would just be a, yes or no. And if it's a yes, then they can, trigger that appropriate mill rate. And if it's a no, then it, of course, never goes into effect. But yeah, we can adjust the document in that regard. The one piece on sorry, go ahead.
I don't want to see. I want it to succeed in the worst way, but we need to just have some oversight. And like you say, if he can work it in the document, all the better. And I think that would really keep everyone happy.
How is the PID board going to be organized?
It's just the 3 members of our development group. And which is typically, what I've been told is the standard. Again, I've not done this, but Aaron, that's what you've seen in all the other ones you've done, is that correct?
So that's, and that's dictated by state law. So under state law, it has to be property owners and their agents. So, there have been cities or counties that say, hey, is there, a way to put a council member on there? And there's really not, because they aren't a property owner. And so that's how these districts are set up. But you'll see in the governing document, there is transition language from an appointed to an elected board for a residential district. And so in those cases, there would be a transition point where after a certain number of years and milestones would be hit for a residential district, then those seats would begin to be filled by the residences. So there is a path, and this is all pursuant to state law. There is a path for it to transition so that ultimately those decisions would be made by folks elected within the boundaries of the district.
Dennis, you had a question?
Yeah, so this, it's Roman numeral 6, the Board of Trustees, that's what we're talking about, right? Letter A, board composition.
That's correct.
It's page 18 on our. Our 3 trustees who shall be appointed by the city council pursuant to the PID Act. So it's the city council that appoints them, but they have to be property owners. And right now, you guys are all the property owners. That's
that's correct. And if there was the need for a reappointment before a transition, so let's say that the milestones hadn't been met then it would still be the city council that would continue to appoint from the property owners and, registered voters if, as applicable, until that, until the election is held.
Okay.
Because I think the last time you presented, we asked this question. And I thought, maybe I heard wrong, that board members could be city council members, residents. But now.
No, he's saying that.
Yeah, it is a state law provision of the PID Act that they have to be a resident or a property owner within the district's boundaries. So an outside property owner would not be unless they also owned property within the district. And I also think, one of the purposes of a PID is to have a separate entity and a separate issuer. The Ephraim City may be familiar, if you have like an RDA or a building authority or, something like that, if that was to issue bonds, it goes on your audit. You're, responsible for the reporting and the financial statements and all of that versus here you're creating a separate and distinct entity. And that it shields the city from liability. The PID Act is really clear that the debts and obligations of the district are not obligations of the city, and the city has no liability for them. But also it keeps it off of your financial reporting. It keeps it away from your credit rating. And so that's all by design. And similarly, if the city council had control of the PID board, then it could be viewed as a roll-up entity because it's controlled by the city. So those are the reasons why the PIDs were designed the way they were, was to keep the creating entity here, Ephraim City, from having any liability for the actions or the debt of the district.
Thank you. Any other questions, council members?
So what do we do? What's the next process?
This is just a study agenda for tonight. It'll appear on the agenda in 2 weeks for an approval or disapproval. So this is just to get the wiggles out.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yep, thank you. Moving on to item B, city manager ordinance.
So, Ephraim has been operating with the city manager system for a while. Somehow through the transition, an actual ordinance has not been codified. So
Since 1971, it hasn't been called.
yeah, so we're gonna take care of that, And so what you have in front of you is a city manager ordinance. And it talks about the powers and duties of the city manager. Number one, basically, is to appoint department heads. Number two, they're in charge of the budget. Number three, procurement. Number four, financial updates. 5, pay schedule. 6, personnel policies. 7, health, safety, and welfare measures for the city. 8, basically the structure of how the city organization is operated under. 9, city manager will attend all meetings of the governing body. 10, make sure that all municipal laws and ordinances are duly enforced. 11, notify the governing body of any emergency existing in any department. 12, keep or cause to be kept a current inventory of the property of the city. 13, devote sufficient time to the discharge of these duties and adhere to the city management code of ethics, which I have included for you, which looks like this. Right. Term of office is, city managers are appointed by the city council and they serve at the pleasure of the city council. They can be, hired or fired, at will. So, position of mayor not delegated to manager. So there are certain duties city manager does not touch. So the legislative and judicial powers of the mayor and mayoral position as the chairman of the governing body, those are his duties or hers, and the city manager will not touch those. Conversely, the governing body will not give orders to city staff. You have to work through the city manager to make your wishes known. That does not mean, I want to emphasize, that does not mean you are not allowed to talk to department heads or staff. Absolutely, you can ask them questions, but what you can't do is order the public works director to go do something. That's not how this works, all right? But you absolutely are allowed to talk to staff and department heads and get your questions.
So, just a question, just like me asking Candace some questions about the phone, or me asking Colby, I'm not telling them to do anything. Come in and talk.
That's encouraged, highly encouraged.
Is that all okay?
All great. It is very healthy for the elected officials to be in contact and communication and build good relationships with city staff. What you cannot do is give them orders.
Fix my lawn.
Or shovel
Yeah,
my
sign-
driveway, or, yeah. Not okay.
Catch my dog.
Yes. Exactly.
You might.
Okay, the city manager shall furnish a surety bond to be approved by the governing body. Said bond to be conditioned on the faithful performance of his or her duties. I'm not clear on this one yet.
That is a bond that is automatic, Candace, correct me. That's a bond that we automatically pay for as a city, with the, right, with the trust.
All right. Compensation, the city council shall, address the city manager's compensation from time to time. If for any reason, the office of city manager is vacated, then it is the duty of the mayor and city council to appoint somebody else. And the city council may remove the city manager at any time with or without cause by a majority vote of its members. So that is the ordinance. Can I answer any questions?
Is this pretty much a standard city manager?
Yeah, it's pretty standard.
The question I have is, it's here, it's the last bit of the term of office, 1.28.030. No mayor or council person shall receive such appointment to city manager, right?
Mhm.
During the term for which he or she shall have been elected, nor within 1 year after the expiration of his or her term.
Oh,
Do we need to have that in Ephraim? Or,
It's up to you. As Councilmember Stevens pointed out, this is pretty typical boilerplate. But it's up to you. If you feel that you would like to keep that, excise that out, you may.
I think I can understand why we don't want to have somebody on the city council also be the city manager. But once they're not on the city council or the mayor anymore, and we have a vacated city manager, what would be the concern? Candace has something to say.
Just so you know, our ethics policy does not allow any city employee to serve on city council as well.
Yeah.
But it has no restriction on the 1 year.
I guess maybe you could have an idea as you're sitting on this board, make some changes to the appointed office of city manager, and then with the idea that you want to then try to become the city manager. And then you've helped yourself out, I guess. That would be the only thing that I can think of.
I think this probably, if you don't like it, you can
We
absolutely,
can recommend it. That
yes.
we take it out or whatever.
I actually like it. And the reason is that we have had a case of that.
Yeah.
And, so
And it makes it uncomfortable.
it makes it really uncomfortable. And it left, the situation was finally resolved, but with a lot of hurt feelings.
So this is just in study session, so something to be thinking about. It will be on action agenda for next week. So,
We're meeting next week.
oh, sorry, next council meeting.
Can you do all of that stuff that it says? And just-
Yes, I can.
Haven't you seen her the last time?
I know.
She's like a speeding bullet, Speedy Gonzales.
So I will say, when I was first reading through this, I was like. But.
It doesn't
it's
change
not
the
all at
scope
once. It's
of
not
anything
all
that
at
you're
once.
already doing.
Yeah, so, all right. So that's that. All right.
Okay, any other thoughts, council members? I would, is it okay, Dennis, if we just leave it in?
Yeah, it's fine. I just wanted to,
Yeah.
and even as I talked through it, I could see a possible abuse.
Yeah.
of it.
Okay, moving on to item number 4, action agenda, ECR 25-03, a resolution dissolving the Manti. A resolution dissolving, and this needs to be corrected. No, this is correct. Dissolving the Manti Ephraim Airport Board. Okay.
All right, so as we discussed in our previous council meeting, we are making some changes on the administration at the airport. One of the, if you recall, at the joint meeting between Manti City Council and Ephraim City Council, one of the things that the airport board was suggesting is that the board, it was kind of cumbersome and the system was cumbersome. And so acting on kind of their suggestion of having a board that was able to come back with more timely direction. We've started an executive board in the past 3 months that consists of the mayor, Mayor Scott, Mayor Bigelow, city manager Kent Barton, and myself. And so with we get advice from those who have interest at the airport when that is necessary. We're in a transition phase right now, but we did feel that it was necessary to dissolve the airport board as it was currently constituted, with a great deal of thanks to those who have spent decades serving on that board, and appreciate the time and efforts that they have put into that. But based on their recommendation, we are going to transition into a different format so that we can meet the needs of the airport in a more timely fashion. So that is what is under the resolution. Can I answer any questions for you? Okay.
Looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 25-03, dissolving the Manti Ephraim Airport Advisory Board.
Motion made by Councilmember Anderson.
Need to add resolution 25-03.
I did.
She did.
You did.
I did that first.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Perry. All in favor?
Yes.
It is unanimously passed. I might add that the board members have already been contacted, and they are, they understand that this is happening. They've been thanked for their service, and and we continue to grow in the understanding of what this board will be all about. And
The executive.
right, the executive board. And it will continue to develop. Moving on to item B under action agenda, Butterfield General Plan Amendment. Megan.
So this is kind of a two in one, because we can't do one without the other. Katie, could you just show Mr. Butterfield's property? Okay, that's perfect. So, Mr. Butterfield owns, 4 parcels. I see Butterfield Properties. It's just there's Walmart, there's that, I believe it's the Enbridge. Property, and then he owns to the west of that. Our future general plan shows this property potentially being zoned commercial. Mr. Butterfield would like to change it to R2. It is currently RA. The reason he seeks the R2 zone is because he would like to make smaller lot sizes, so about 8,000 square feet. And he would like to build.
Smaller than the RA
Smaller than-
requires a third of an acre, right?
Right, yes. So these would be smaller lot sizes, and homes that are about 1,200 square feet, not 200. Very tiny homes.
When your wife gets mad at you, then that's.
Yeah.
She wants a market.
I second her clause. He plans to just make some lots that are smaller, focus more on some starter homes for small families or people that want to retire, that don't want to take care of a big lot. Brian recommended the R2 zone. He could get the same lot size in the R1, but we thought it would be a better step down from the commercial where Walmart is. And if you scroll back up just a little bit, you'll see in that far right corner, that section right there is also R2. So it's compatible with what is already there. I don't know if you can.
Bottom right corner.
Yeah, bottom right, sorry, right here. And there aren't duplexes there that I'm aware of. They just, again, did it for the smaller lot size. Mr. Butterfield has committed to several others that he does not want duplexes there. Just those smaller lot sizes for a little bit more attainable housing. And it's something that we need as the city of Ephraim. So general plan amendment would be from RA to R2, and then the rezone request from RA to R2. So any questions or concerns?
Megan, there
Yes.
was one other aspect.
Oh,
to
yes.
that. On an R, to put duplexes on a R2, you need 10,000 square foot lots.
Right.
And all the lots will be less than that, so they legally could not have a duplex on.
They would have to buy 2 lots to get 1 duplex if they did that.
To the east there is a road right there, where a roadway is now there.
That'd be
200
200.
west.
There, okay, that is 200 west, and so it's, do you happen to know, just out of curiosity, what the width of that is?
It's pretty wide. I know Chad owns some properties the other side of it.
Yes, it's a long story, but that on.
We want the short version, John.
The short version is on 200 west. That road, that's where the house in the Ephraim housing was built, the homes there on the corners. She just posted out. It has been, and Brian, the short thing, it's all went through the city, and that road will go straight down to the other, it'll line up with the existing road.
Is that about a 66 foot road, Brian? Okay.
Yeah. All grid streets are 66 feet, so all the way around that will be a grid street, feature 800 north, 200 west, 400 west, 700 North, all of those will be good streets. They're planning the 66-foot driveways.
And Mr. Butterfield will be improving his frontages. It will be a phased project, but it will be all the way around.
Both on the 700 north and the 200 west, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, all four roads will be mapped out in the subdivision. Cause you've got 700 north, on the south edge of it, and then it'd be 800 north on the north edge of it.
Okay,
So you
And
got
400
here,
west on the
here,
west edge and 200 west on the east edge.
okay. That's a lot of development.
Yeah, we'll do it. It'll probably get about between 60 and 70 lots in there, depending on the water drainage requirements and so forth.
Okay.
And we've
Over.
got probably some sewer issues as well on the back north end of it that we have to phase that out at the end. And if there's future sewage ponds, we can go that way. If not, we'll have to do pump stations on the back end of it.
Will they have basements on them?
Yes, the plan is, unless if it's a problem with the sewer, then maybe that north end would just be slab on grade.
And I just bring it up because there used to be water problem with
Right.
subwater.
I think a lot of the
There is a
city, I
drain
know
line there.
that Danish Fields had severe water problems at one time as well. And a lot of that was from the flood irrigation,
Right.
was the higher water table.
I just wanted to bring it up so everybody's aware of it, that there-
Yes, there are homes that are further north of that property and also further west that have basements in them, so, but that would have to be.
I know we put the, I'm getting off track. We put the sewer in on 200 west there in front of them homes, and we had to hold the pipe down
Did you? Yeah.
with the bucket. That's been a few years ago. We haven't had that. There's a lot of, like you say, the irrigation ditches and a lot of things have been solved, but at that time, there was a problem. There was a problem with the cemetery too.
And those are things that we'll look at with the
Okay.
subdivision application.
thought I'd
Yeah.
bring it up.
Staff will review.
Everybody's aware.
Yeah.
Don't get a septic tank so shed. We're good there.
That makes
Steve?
me day. Thank you. Everybody heard him.
Megan, was this a split vote with the,
Yes, so one of them did vote nay.
okay, did he have?
One of them was concerned about the R2.
About
They,
Oh,
the R2, and wanted it just to be R1.
Yeah, well, duplexes.
Yeah, the possibility of duplexes, and that's when.
But I think it would be a lengthy, because he will be doing a subdivision plat. They will already be,
Lots of
the lots will
too
be
small for a
decided.
duplex.
To amend a subdivision is not an easy task once it's done. So it would be a lot of legwork to make those lots bigger, and you would have to buy 3 just to get 2 duplexes. So
It's really,
It doesn't work, does it?
yeah, I think the scenario is highly unlikely, not impossible, but I think it is unlikely that that would happen once Steve records his spot.
I'm totally fine with an R1. But just so they didn't have spot zoning, they recommended the R2.
Yeah,
With the
and,
R2 already there.
and we would have to renotice all the surrounding property owners that instead of R2, it would be R1. So where the scenario was pretty unlikely, the rest of the commission felt comfortable recommending approval.
any other questions, council members?
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the Butterfield General Plan Amendment on the 21.6 acres from RA to R2.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Stevens, second by Councilmember Norfeld. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. We're done with now our meeting. Okay.
Do we need to?
Oh, it's a little joke. It's a little inside joke, Megan. Can you see why it was an inside joke? We're gonna move on to item number C, Butterfield rezone. Zoning map amendment to rezone 21.6 acres. from RA to R2. This is the companion amendment. Any further questions, council members?
Make the motion, we approve the Butterfield rezone zoning map amendment to rezone 21.6 acres from RA to R2.
Second,
Motion made by Councilmember Stevens, second by Councilmember Norfeld. All in favor?
yes.
It is approved. Now, moving on to item 5, council reports. We'll start with Councilmember Perry.
Looks like we got a few minutes.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember.
A couple of things. Nobody met this time. There was conflicts there were a lot of things going on this time of year. I did talk to Corey. He has a couple of guys that he's in St. George now with a couple of guys doing their electrical classes, but I was gonna ask him and I forgot. On our spring Utah cities, leagues and towns, there is I got a message on a UAMPS that's down there at the same time. My question was, is it tied up with the Utah City and Leagues in Town, or is it a separate?
They always,
separate-
yeah, and
separate
it's,
meeting?
as I recall, it was either the day before or just the morning of,
I think it's the morning. of
I
it,
think so
Larry.
too. I've been through it a couple of times.
I was just wondering if, I'd be kind of interested in going to some of the classes, but if it's a big deal.
Just as long as it's the same day that we check in. We don't want to pay for any
Right,
other hotels or any registration. And
right.
so I don't know what the
So maybe I'll
registration is
talk to
for.
Corey or.
Let's talk about it.
I was gonna ask Corey and I forgot about it, so I was just gonna bring it up before I forget again and get down there. It just seemed like I thought it might be tied in into the same thing. Crazy to have them at the same time, but some of the stuff looked kind of interesting, but I'm not sure. I did talk to Jeff, or no, I didn't talk to Jeff. I talked to some of his guys about their training that they just got back. So I'll talk to him a little bit more about it, but it sounded like they really had a good conference down there. I know we used to really bring it up or really bring a lot back from down there, a lot of new stuff coming in. The other thing I was gonna say is, on Don Olson's. I talked to you a little bit. When you get to that point, if you have any questions, we had exact same thing happen at our other well. And it was a big deal. I don't have any problems with it, but I would really like to see somebody pay so we could cover the cost of that pipeline.
Yeah.
But, it was really a tough situation.
So did we have an artesian well with the other?
We
wells
did
there?
on our well, that's well number 1 down there.
Right.
It artesian really well for a long time. I don't know if it has as much as we've started to use it, just the same as the other well. But that water went down on Ted Thompson's and Craig Oberg's and some other people. And they really wanted the water certain times a year. And then they didn't want it. And it went back and got ugly. And so we finally says, okay, we'll run the pipe like we did down there, and it went to the ditch. We had the exact same thing come back. Well, we want water. And we said, we're sorry, we can't. It was either we talked to you, told you, you said didn't want the water. So we had to run a separate power line down another one. And I don't have I would wish somebody could pay for it. But there is some other people that possibly are taking the water that are in the city limits too, but I would really like to see them at least cover the cost of the pipe but then there's some questions there on water, like the overflow of our water tank. It goes down through private property. There's been some questions about that overflow with the property owner, so I think we do also it's just me talking, need to look, make sure I'm legal with water rights and everything. It's legal that we can do it.
See that water tank water, I've been to that pond.
Right.
And talked with the landowner. And I mean, we push out about 1 million gallons a day in the winter. We don't in the summer, but we do in the winter.
And there was a lot of discussion on we should pipe to the ditch, we should pipe it. For a lot of different things, but I know there is some questions there and I know the property owner brought up some legal stuff. So I think we need to make sure what we're doing, but council needs to understand that the property owner on this one really was upset about all the water, and that's fine, I understand you. But we did fix it and spent a lot of money to fix it, and now he wants this. Now, I don't have a problem with the water going to him, but I just wish that we could get some money to pay for it, and I just thought I'd give you that input.
Thank you.
Just, let me see here.
I've heard Brian say several times, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting.
It is, and
It's true.
it's with the guys, I had a person and Carl, non-employee, I've had him get chased with a backhoe with a farmer with a shovel. So I can tell you that it's very, very.
Them's fighting words, water.
It is, and I just, don't take me wrong, I would like to see the pipe. I'd like to see some money come back in to pay for that, whether it's whoever it is. But I think there is some legal, I want to make sure that we can do that. So that's all.
Thank you.
Margie, can you cover it in 45 minutes, Margie?
Did you say? No, I'm not going for 45. Well, I sure have listened to hours of it, but, and sometimes it mushes your brain, but I'll do my best. So one thing, I think Miss Ephraim is planning on the 17th of May, if that's all right. At Snow College. Anyway. I know there was some discussion about this, about the whole situation. And I can talk about that another time, but currently that's when it's scheduled. And so some of Mount Pleasant and Manti, they're letting girls come in their sophomore year, and some of them might not be 16 yet, which means they can't go to Miss Sanpete, but they could go to the Miss Sanpete team, because we've always required that of the person who wins. So if it's the little girl that wins, she goes to the team. But we can talk about the details of Miss Ephraim later on. Okay, one of the big bills that concerns the league is Senate Bill 337. And it was interesting because it's talking about, they said this is like Inland Port 2.0, which kind of scares me. It was called the Beehive Agency or something. There's a lot of things that the league didn't like in relation to taking, they didn't want things that were kind of an affront to to local government. They want to be collaborative, but they don't want another group to take over, what you're going to do in your area. In fact, Cameron Deal told somebody, he went to the committee meeting, and this was yesterday, the 3rd, no, 2 days ago, I guess. He said, our members are heck no on this base bill, and I'm pretty sure he did not use the word heck, but that was his feeling. He said, sub 2 is in the works, and he said, I don't know what it is, but it's coming down that this is a big generational project, like happens once in a generation almost, that they're looking to doing a Fortune 500 company or something. I don't know, a space project.
It's gotta be a tech.
Yeah.
It's gotta be an IT project.
Yeah, they said, somebody else said like tech. They have the Texas Instrument somewhere up north. Do you know where it is, Katie?
Nope.
But anyway.
It's in Lehigh.
Is it in Lehigh? Okay. So anyway.
To the east.
That's kind of what the rumblings are that they're wanting to pass this for. It needs to be more explicit on consent from the city and consequences if they don't do. There wouldn't be any gravel projects. That is such a big fight this year too, is gravel projects, big fight. They want local government to have input sooner, not rather than later, you know, when they're doing this. And what is local consent? So there are just some things that really concern them. I looked and today, I know it got talked about once in one of the houses, but I don't think it's passed yet. So I don't know what's gonna happen to it this year. It's still got two more. Sub two is in the works.
Was
That
this
the sub one.
337?
Yes. So. And it has that beehive something. Brian, have you heard about that in any of your meetings? Anyway. And there's a lot on elections that people want. Beehive Development Agency, that's what it calls. There's I think Brian and I talked about that, about H Bill 550 prohibiting, they kind of want to have their own inspector. And they're not always familiar with everything. And I don't know where it went and what place it is right now, which house.
Did it pass the House? Did it
I
go out of committee? You know,
I don't know for sure. I don't remember listening to the discussion on this. So it may not even be out of committee yet. But it's been talked about in other committee meetings earlier in the session. And the problem is, you know, bringing your own inspector. They're trying to save turnover, but they may not all know all the municipal codes for each municipality. And let's see. So Senate Bill 154 disclosing the post. Okay. There were a whole bunch of bills that were kind of after the judges, the state courts and the judges. And anyway, I think that a lot of those got voted down. And so, and I'm glad. I don't think judicial to me is a separate arm of the government. And so I don't think the legislature, but that's just a personal opinion, should be saying what goes on there. That's a separate arm of the government. That's just my opinion. So they talked about these project entities, and I'm trying to see where it is. Anyway, like IPA, and it's anyway this new council for energy is going to be called the Utah Energy Council. It's an interlocal. They're talking about transferring the 2 coal units to this Utah Energy Council, the 2 coal units that are over in the Delta. There's a little bit of not being happy because who gets put on this Utah Energy Council? I don't want too many people. And anyway, I think there are some people that are being left out to be a part of that Utah Energy Council, but that's where the organization of IPA will kind of be part of that now. So they'll have control of IPP. There was something on there was a second sub, House Bill 249, the nuclear power amendments. That was had to have been sponsored by Albrecht because it's a House bill, and Milner's the Senate sponsor. And it's going to be an agreement too. I think it's going to be an agreement with Rocky Mountain Power, which makes me just a little uncomfortable. I don't know where UAMPS comes in the circle of things here, but I listened to Senator Milner talk about it. She says we've got to begin looking at nuclear projects, and you have to start early because the permitting is just, really hard to get to, years in advance, 10 years in advance. And they said partner state with Wyoming, but we need to start exploring this. 20% of the power east of the Mississippi is nuclear a little bit. Aircraft carriers, submarines, they've used nuclear for 50 years. The governor doesn't want legislators on this committee, but I don't know, we'll see what happens. They're talking, they get a lot of feedback, a lot of pushback saying we should be pursuing wind and solar. And they're saying that the thing that Vickers said was, he said it's you only get about 11% can come from wind and 2% from solar for as much as we've got of all of that. And he said it doesn't give you any base load power. And so he said, if we don't find, we're going to use coal and other things as a bridge right now, and while you look at other things, but he said it just doesn't address the base load. And it's a problem with the landscape, the way it looks. When you go past Richfield, there's a lot of that I noticed, a lot of the black. And he said, when you increase the cost of energy to only use certain powers, you reduce the effectiveness of it. They want to, it creates positive revenue. I've got lots of notes. Invest, and yeah, and there's quite a few energy bills up there. I don't know how many of them have made it through, or some have dropped off. Like I said, they've only got 2 more days. Milner said, none of this would happen in the city. It'd all be like Delta, Carbon County, Emory County. And okay, so anyway. And Cullimore was concerned that you're going to preclude counties from getting new development. And you would only get the nuclear, but it's interesting to me that now they're all thinking nuclear is fine. But why wasn't our little nuclear project fine? And I know it wasn't our fault, but
it went above our 85 cent per kilowatt hour.
And we couldn't
The
afford it.
85 cent was the cutoff.
Yeah.
And it didn't pencil out when it went above.
Right. So, but I'll bet you this is not going to be any cheaper. And I just don't know. That's why I kind of wanted Corey to be here. If say they talked about UAMPS briefly, someone said, well, something about UAMPS. UAMPS been involved in this, and I think I can't remember who it was that was talking, and they just kind of went right past that. So I'm a little worried about UAMPS. And what's the one that Manti's a part of? Is that where Garfield is too? Or is that their own?
Garfield has their own.
Anyway, I'm concerned about some of those. There was an award given to Carl Albrecht today. A few years ago, Fred Cox used to be a representative up there, and he paid attention. I bet he read every bill 3 times, and he paid attention to accuracy and detail. And this year, Representative Albrecht got that award because he's been correcting them on spelling and stuff. So anyway, that was kind of lighthearted, and they needed some lighthearted today. Let's see. I think the labor union thing in Utah is still an issue. That got voted in and fast. There's also
it's signed by the governor.
Yes, fast. And the teachers were very, very unhappy. Still are. I don't think we'll see the last of it. They did have a little bill for cancer screening for firefighters. They say they have a heavy toll on cancer. That if you've been firefighting, I don't know if our volunteers
Their
do.
turnouts.
Yeah,
that's why their turnouts have to be replaced
so often.
every 3 to 5 years.
But I think they were going to be able to, that was funded so that they could screen them. So there's lots they're still tracking. And that's only a portion of what I listened to today, and then my brains start to scramble, so I have to get up and do something else, but in particular, that part with nuclear power being, we do need to start looking to that, because if you don't, you're gonna be buying our power outside of the state, and that's what we don't want to do, is buy our power outside of the state. So we'll use, I think we're gonna have the opportunity to use fossil fuels and so on now a little bit more than we've had. And that'll be good. And just as a bridge to get to where we can start doing the nuclear stuff. So, yeah.
Well, Margie deserves a medal. She says she has to get up and do something. I'm aware of what she does. She goes out into her garage and she has a pillar there. She grabs a hold of the pillar and she goes, goes out for about 3 or 4 minutes and then she goes back in.
No, not quite that, but I baked cookies today when I couldn't stand to sit there anymore, so.
And where are they?
Well, I took them to my neighbors today. Next time I'll bring some to you guys.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah.
Your smiling face.
Fire department met last night. We had our wildland fire red card recertification. All the members that were eligible for red cards except one went there and passed.
Cool.
And Sterling was there, and so was Manti. There was about 45 firefighters at the meeting. And they've worked through the south end of the county and they're going north. So I think by and large, the whole county is going to be in really good shape for red carded firefighters, which I hope we don't need.
Let's hope we get a lot of water this weekend.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Hertel.
Scandinavian Days met again. They've decided on a pin design, and they're gonna do stickers and magnets as well.
Who designed it?
I don't know.
Did they have a contest? I think
I
so.
don't know who the winning person was, the designer. I'll send it to you guys. We've got some flyers that you can post that I'll send as well. They're working with a lot of the faith-based organizations to get floats for the parade, and gonna have a contest and some prizes. Still looking for some judges to be float judges, if you don't want to be in the parade.
Non-biased.
You're making your own float or something. Yeah. All right, well, good, that'll be exciting. That's it.
Thank you. The upstairs is being IT'd so that we can move our people up there. We are not sure of the calendar when that great event will happen, but it will hopefully, I'm sure, it's got to be during the month of March. It's just a whole IT network that needs to be installed up there so that we can run operations from a secure standpoint. March 20th, we were going to have a dinner with the county commissioners, and that also happens to be the night of the county convention to replace Commissioner Scott Collard. And so we will reschedule March 20th.
Are you a county delegate? The mayor and I are, I think.
We met with the Ferguson group today, and I've kind of talked to you guys about this. I'm not going to tell you who this is from because I was asked not to. But I made an inquiry of people who we work with about our federal granting process. And their response to my inquiry, because the portal should be opening so that we can do grant application, congressional directed spending applications. And their response was Oh, Mayor, I'm just not confident enough about the CPF program continuing.
That's CPF. That's-
Congressionally,
Funded,
prioritize funding, whatever it is. I'm hopeful, but to say if they will release the applications again, I don't know. And so we've kind of talked about this, that maybe the era of congressionally directed funding is over. I don't know. We'll know in the next couple of weeks. But we've benefited almost $23 million in the last 6 years through this program and others. And so but in talking with the Ferguson group, it's like they said, we'll concentrate on different sources of funding. And so it's not like we're done with that aspect, but we don't know where this stands. It's a developing thing. Representative Shelley is going to invite the House and the Senate to our 50th anniversary of the Scandinavian Festival. He's going to send that text out to everyone Friday. And so we're excited. We've already invited Congressman Burgess Owens. We've invited the governor. We've invited Senator Curtis. And I haven't reached out to Senator Lee's office yet, but I will. We've also invited our commissioners, and this is going to be a big deal. It's 50th anniversary. It's going to be just a wonderful thing. And that's all I have.
Can I just mention one other thing? To the first House Bill 462, Rural Schools Sports Facility Grant, and it's sponsored by the state. And I think if the school district would apply for that, of course, it would be up to them what they use it for, but it could benefit because we use their facilities for our sports. If there was some way that could be expanded for them, that would benefit the city too. So, anyway. And it was just for rural schools.
Really?
Because the gal said, I had some rural friends up and they were looking at a new high school and they said, wish we could have something like this. And she said, I don't think we realize, because up here we've got this rec facility, this, and this. But in some of the rural areas, they use those schools for everything, for city stuff, for community stuff. And we do. Look where they're playing soccer and basketball. So that's it.
I think the most important thing that I can tell you is that bids are going out for the Public Works building next week.
And what's the turnaround time?
They'll 3 weeks. We'll leave it out there.
It'll be built in 3 weeks.
It'll be built.
Okay.
I like to get things done. That's all I have. Yeah. So that's happy news there. And I think the mayor covered everything that I wanted to make sure is that we canceled that dinner. So that's it.
Hey, looking for motion to end our
I'll
city
make a
council
motion
meeting.
that we end this council meeting.
Motion made by Councilmember Stevens,
Second.
second by Councilmember Anderson. All in favor?
That was a
Yeah.
fast